and helping them see the root cause of problems here.
Well, because if the problem is that Gen Z is far left, that is the problem. But part of the reason for that is because the right or the alternative has totally and woefully failed to market any sort of serious alternative.
Yeah.
AOC's on Instagram Live reaching millions of people, right? Whereas the Republican Party is still more focused on Fox News, which is preaching to the baby boomer crowd, right? There's no outreach. There's no conservative solutions for the high cost of college. There are solutions, but they're not talked about. They're not campaigned on. If people care about student debt, they're like, oh, I guess Bernie's the only one that cares about the things I care about. Climate change, I listened to a great panel debate earlier between two different conservative perspectives on this stage, and one of them is denying any problem exists and says if you even acknowledge it, you're basically like AOC in the Green New Deal. Whereas the other one is saying, hey, we need to provide alternatives about how the free market can address this problem because young people care about it. Look at the polls. But they're the minority still, and hopefully they're growing. But part of the reason Gen Z is so far astray is because boomers, and not just boomers, but previous generations have failed to appeal to them on the issues they care about with real solutions, leaving them to the left by default.
Let's talk about some of those issues, because climate change and the idea of fairness are the things that consistently top polls for concerns of millennials and Gen Z, and I think it presents one of the most opportune policy areas to completely upend the way that our society works and dismantle capitalism, that is addressing climate change. So Zoomer rhetoric around climate change goes something like this. Boomers have spent 30 plus years denying the evidence around climate change and as such have threatened our actual ways of life. Like you're having to buy air conditioners now in Seattle. You never had to do that before. Actual ways in which we are living. But Gen Z solutions veer right off into Mao's Red Book. Like that's where their instincts are. So make the case, please, for why boomer complacency on climate is worse than some of the medicines that your cohort proposes.
Well, I mean, when you have one side saying it's a Chinese hoax, and the other side saying give us more money and the big government will solve it, you're not actually providing any alternative. So I do think, right, the communist-style Green New Deal is horrible, right? But where have Republican politicians been the last 15 years on this issue other than burying their heads in the sand? So I just don't think it's fair to lay the blame for Gen Z having gone so far left when they weren't really provided an alternative. And I know they have agency and they could have found some other ideas on their own and they are out there, but ultimately the people in power have been the baby boomers, and they have failed to market this issue in a way that has any sort of long-term foresight or prospects. They've literally just thought about, what do I have to do to please this audience of people I need to immediately get reelected?
And boy, is it a missed opportunity to talk about the free market, because I'm not into climate issues. It's not my top issue. But I will tell you, when I'm out, one of the number one things I get approached about are people who want to know, what is the free market solution to climate change? What are the answers? They want alternatives. They're looking for them. They're open to them. And so even though it's not my top issue, I know that it's important that we lead on it. I know it's important we have those answers. And it's a great opportunity for us to then furthermore educate people about the power of the free market in general. Because then once they understand how the free market can solve this issue they care a lot about, then they're going to start looking into other free market solutions for other issues they care about. So to totally leave it there is a huge missed opportunity where we really could be doing a lot of groundwork with people on a topic that they're very passionate about.
I was just going to add, I mean, I'm so torn because we're not, I'm not really advocating for the boomers, so I kind of want to, take your side a little bit here. I do think the boomers made a huge mistake with regard to nuclear. One of the things we are seeing, and this is certainly something that we should be pushing with the younger generations, is nuclear. There's clean nuclear now. It's green. When I talk to environmentalists, the smart ones have run the numbers. There is not enough wind turbines in the world to actually, scale up on the level we need to. So that would certainly be a way to, I think, reach out, is, third and fourth gen nuclear. You can use spent uranium. It's something like that is an option that, maybe could be a crossover. I also want to add, we use this term woke so much, right? And people are woke. And I kind of feel like a lot of libertarians were woke 10 years ago. Like I remember when you get mad about stuff, and, when I was in college in South Africa, I certainly, you learn your colonialistic history and that makes you mad and whatever. So to some extent, some of this anger, I think, from their side is not misplaced. I think where we're losing the opportunity is to take that and to gently then offer these ideas of the market, right? So I hardly ever see, all you see on social media is people attacking others for being woke and then not properly telling them, but part of the solution here is free markets and private property.
But
and
here's the problem, though. How can, for example, not you guys specifically, right, but older generations, market free market capitalism to young people when they spent their entire lives selectively enforcing that belief, right? Running up trillions in government spending.
Let me touch that piece
them, getting their own taxes cut, yet then crying, calling everyone else entitled.
I would push back the same way you pushed back. You said we have to market better to the Gen Z. You have to market better to boomers. Boomers have all the money. Boomers vote. Boomers run this, they run this nation. So you can cry and get mad, and instead, what has the left done? The left has alienated boomers like there's no tomorrow. They're all wrong, they're all bad, they're all old, they're all evil, they're all mean, they're all racist, they're all everything bad. And you want them now to come and take their money and their time and their vote and to help you? They're not going to. So I would push back in the same way. You want us to market better to Gen Z? Well, then market better to boomers. And instead of alienating them, bring them aboard and say, help us out. You've got the money. The boomers have all the money in the country. You all vote if you're a boomer. The boomers vote. Gen Z doesn't vote worth a damn. I know I ran for office. They don't vote. So they don't vote, but the boomers do. So how about instead of alienating them by calling them anti-woke or whatever you're going to call them, say join us and help us fix this.
I want to talk a little bit about truth. I think
You were supposed to clap.
change.
Thank you.
Please clap.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about truth. Facts don't care about your feelings is a pretty popular slogan these days. You hear lobbed on the right to knock around campus leftists and SJWs. It's like the Fox News ethos, like in a nutshell. Young people are just overly sensitive, they say, and don't care for facts. Which generation has the most complicated relationship with truth in a way that makes their views a threat to individual liberty and self-government?
I will say, anytime I drop the OK Boomer thing online, which I find very funny, I just do. Like, it won't ever not be funny to me. And what makes it funny, I think, is the response. Like, this really gets under the skin of boomers. They're so upset by it, they can't.
Discrimination.
Yeah, they're like, wow, ageism. And it's like, okay, this is a joke. It's meant to kind of poke fun. And you guys throw shade all the time. You've said we're a bunch of avocado toast eating people who can't get our act together, and we're just so entitled and we can't buy a house because we have no self-control, and on it goes. Like, we get knocked all the time, but then you push back at all and they do totally melt down. And I just think there's a lack of self-awareness there in general around this generation, and they don't oftentimes want to confront the reality of what some of their policies have been. And I've